Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 2 of the Broadcast Podcast. I am Kolby with a K, here with another aspiring broadcaster. Last episode, we had the wonderful Britt Nielsen on to talk about broadcasting and her experiences with the profession and how she intends to move forward with it in her career. But now joining me is the astounded play-by-play analyst, Caden Hope.
The greatest.
You're definitely up there. One of our newest Strive members, but also one of our most influential in this past year. We have Caden Hope. Caden, how you doing today?
I'm doing pretty good.
That's amazing. So, to kick off this podcast, what we're going to be talking about today is we're going to kind of have a questionnaire for Caden almost, and we're going to go back and forth over some broadcasting topics. We are going to discuss some of our additional favorite moments from the season, and we kind of did that last episode, but we're going to do it again. And we are going to keep analyzing what we can improve upon, and we are going to see what's next for us kind of in the broadcasting realm. So, to kick things off, Caden, definitely one of our newest members. You just started calling games this past year. So, kind of what made you become a broadcaster, and how did you kind of get into all this? How did you know that this was going to be what you were going to be doing for a while throughout basketball season?
I mean, it honestly just started when I was younger, when I was a kid. Watching First Take in the morning with my dad, just any ESPN show. I was like, oh, they're going to be talking about me one day. But then when I found out, oh, I'm not going to the league, I was like, oh, I could talk about, there's a job where I could talk about sports. And what I really like talking about, I mean, obviously Colby's in the room every day. He hears the arguments that break out. So he knows how passionate, I'm really passionate about sports.
Debates. I'll say debates, not necessarily arguments, but it's definitely different points of conversation. And I agree. What better profession to talk about sports than broadcasting?
And then I'd say, well, I mean, what kind of got me is I wasn't going to play basketball this season, so I was like, I still want to be involved in basketball because I'd say my expertise so far is basketball and football. And yeah. I don't really know. I mean, kind of know baseball, but not like to the extent where I can knowingly commentate on it, because I think my kind of rule of thumb or whatever is I got to know at least the basics of the sport and understand it.
Yeah, and there's a lot of, especially with being, you get up to the highest level of broadcasting, they only really do one sport. But, you get on ESPN, you get Kenny G and Barkley and all those people on NBA Today or whatever it is. And you get the people on, we got MLB opening days tomorrow. So that's pretty exciting. Go Astros. Anyway, and then you got the,
better hide the trash cans.
You got the NFL people. You got Pat McAfee that really only talks.
Pat
McAfee does a lot of things. Anyway, point is, the people at the top do a lot of different, or they only do one sport primarily. But we have to learn a lot of different sports. I mean, the great ones can do more than one sport. But
there's people like Joe Buck.
Yes,
he does football.
There are exceptions. I would totally agree with that. There are definitely exceptions to that rule. But from what I've experienced, I think a lot of the people at the top mainly just kind of focus on one sport, either because they played that sport, Charles Barkley and Shaq and all those analysts now, Brady. And
Greg Olson.
Yep.
Tony Romo.
Yep. All the people that they either played it, and that's why they can only commentate that sport because that's all they know, or they played it in high school and or college, and that's just their favorite sport, or they just know a lot about that world, because the sports world is connected, but it's also separate at the same time. And what I mean by that is, I think you can have relationships between, baseball, football, hockey, basketball, you name it. But once you dive into the nitty-gritty into each of the sports, they start getting more different and more different and more different, and you have to stay on your game for all of those different sports. So my point through all this is I would say arguably it's more difficult for people towards the bottom of the totem pole of broadcasters, people like us that have to know basketball, volleyball. I did a golf meet last year. Football. I did not know a whole lot about football, but I commentated it and I did okay. But when you hear a lot of it was just me, asking Mr. Parson, like, here, what do you think they're going to running this play? And then he gets the specifics. So I would love to dive in and to playbooks and look at an actual playbook and look at what play calls mean what. And I think that will make me a better broadcaster overall.
I mean, from my end, obviously I played football this year. Football, there's a lot that goes to it more than just smashing your heads and getting concussions. Yeah, and I think and I think that's one of the things that a lot of people don't realize is they think that football is like the dumb man's game or me big, me hit hard, and that's not it at all. If you look you got to look at film. If you've seen quarterbacks the NFL just proves it. There's head coaches like Sean McVay.
Absolutely, yes.
Kevin O'Connell, Dan Campbell's he's not really offensive or defensive genius. He's more of a player's coach, but there's different aspects.
Yeah, and all those different aspects to it relate to what you know about the sport and what angle you're going to take. And as a broadcaster, it's important to know that going in. You got to know, it's more than just knowing players' names and knowing the sport. It's because journalism as a whole is about finding, there's always a story within the story. There's always something that hasn't been told to the public yet. And I think as a broadcaster, it's important to bring those stories into sports. I think that's one of the things that I've learned talking to various college professors that are in this realm of broadcasting. And what I've taken from all that is there's always, hidden stories, hidden meanings behind certain matchups, and it's important to find those and let the public know what they're witnessing, because it's always more than just a basketball game. It's more than just a football game. It's more than just, MLB opening day. It's something deeper. There's always a story. And whether it's, player was injured all last season and is making his debut, whether it's, these players were teammates in high school and now they're competing against each other, whether it's coaches have changed positions. And we just saw the Xavier and Texas almost coach swap just recently in March Madness. And now we are seeing the transfer portal open right in the middle of March Madness. I have a lot of thoughts on that, but that's not what this podcast is about. More on that later. But it's all just a story, and it's about storytelling through inclusive and thoughtful commentary, I think is what broadcasting is all about. So, moving to our next point probably is, so as this was your first year, what have you learned from being a broadcaster, and are there any tips that you would give to your younger self, any other aspiring broadcasters out there?
I'd say what I've learned is I've learned a whole different point of view to the game of basketball. Obviously on the court you're there, and when you're up in the stands, you see everything. You see the open passes, but when you're on the court, maybe you just see that guy. No, we'll give the ball to him. And some advice I'd give to future broadcasters is go ahead, sign up for it, try it out. And I was nervous for my first time, but when it's your first time, just act like you're like me, debating with my friends or debating with your parents or something. Just get in that comfort zone. And then if you're for my specific position of color commentary, I'd say it's kind of a lot more complex than what you say. Obviously when Mr. Parson told me about the color commentary role, he said you're supposed to spice up what play-by-play says, but it's you got to explain the game to the viewers, which he also told me. You got to kind of simple it for grandparents that are just there to watch their grandkids, obviously. So yeah, just stay in your comfort zone and don't just lose your moment. Like, don't get into the bright lights.
Yeah, I agree. And going back to that point of there's always a story within the story. You know, I think I will say color has a much harder job than play-by-play. Play-by-play gets to use a lot of the spicy words, and I got to vary up. You know, I can't just, every time someone makes a three-pointer made by so-and-so. Three-pointer made by so-and-so. That would get old really quick. You know, I got to say, you know, carves his way to the cup, kick out, corner three, bang! You know, anything like that. And I will say color, you know, play-by-play definitely has a hard job. My job's not easy, but I will say color, I think, definitely has, because I did color for a long time before I got into play-by-play mostly, and that was where I got my start.
I would say
on RLS Drive.
Color, you gotta know the game more.
Yes, you absolutely have to know the game more. Anyone can sit down at a desk and just start talking into a mic and say, "Oh, someone's dribbling. Oh, there's a shot." Anyone can do that, and that's not that that's good play-by-play, but it's play-by-play. Color, you have to know the game in and out. You have to be able to talk confidently about rules, about player stats, about the team, about defenses, about anything else, and be right. Because you can't be, I will say, some people have. I was watching the Super Bowl, and I was making, part of my assignment to myself was making notes on the broadcasters. And those guys can kind of go 50-50 play-by-play color commentary between Tom Brady and the other guy. I forget his name, that did the Super Bowl. But for us, I know we try to do like more 70-30, 80-20 of your color. 80% for you, 80% color, 20% play-by-play. For me, 80% play-by-play, 20% color. And finding that balance has been challenging sometimes. I know there's a lot of moments where we just both want to just take over, or we both just have completely different points that we're trying to get across.
It's all
and you just gotta, and it's chemistry. You gotta work together, and you gotta be able to trust who's sitting next to you. You gotta be able to trust your crew, and gotta be able to trust them. Have to be able to gotta roll with the punches a little bit. I know there was a lot of not like a lot of like mistakes, but things happen. Things go wrong. You know, when you have an elderly gentleman walk right in front while you're on the air and block your entire view and go, "You guys are doing a great job."
That's happened.
Yeah, it happened. It's happened multiple times. But my point is, you gotta be able to roll with the punches, and you gotta be able to.
Kolby's out here letting out frustration.
And again, part of it is, you know, you can't get too frustrated about things like that. Things happen. Mistakes happen on the broadcast. You know, they cut you. We're gonna take a short break. Keep it here on our. And you just get cut off. It happens. And just like. I'm going to make a theater reference for a second. Just like in theater, you don't yell at the tech people. They're doing a great job. They're doing the best they can. Don't yell at your behind-the-scenes crew while you're on the air, or especially not while you're on the air, but even when you're off the air, they're doing the best they can, and they make, I guarantee you, we make a lot more mistakes during the game, or wish we would have done something differently than the people behind the scenes. Because the people behind the scenes, they cut to camera, and it's fine. There's a lot of mistakes that there's a lot more mistakes I think that we don't see because we are not watching the game on the live stream. We're all watching the game, but not the broadcasting stream. But we always notice the mistakes that we make. And, you know, if we catch someone, you know, talking on the air, we're just coming back, and you catch the last few words of "Go LeBron" or something like that. But
Kolby's targeting me now, guys.
No,
Mr. Parson, come help me.
Okay. But my point is, we always notice our mistakes, and you know, we don't know what the crew is going through. We've had
a few mistakes, like me this year.
I mean, and not just that. You know, and again, it was your first year, so I think a lot of people would warrant that. It's okay to make mistakes because you're learning. And I think you really did grow a lot throughout the year. I think you did a fantastic job. But my point here is, you know, there's things happens. We had the stream drop. We had to boot the stream back up. We had horrible audio and choppy video that we had to fix. We had, what else? Lots of things, but
we had Kolby Tighe on the mic and then blaming me the next day.
Okay. So it's just rolling with the punches. It's just about adapting and just staying on your toes and being ready for anything, I would say, because it's important to be prepared, but it's also important to prepare for the unexpected, I would say. Moving to our last point, we have what was one of your favorite moments from the year, whether it was going to state, whether it was game at home, whether it was senior night where we had multiple records broken, whether it was girls district final. What do you got?
It was definitely, I'd have to say, state, because I felt like an actual broadcaster. And then I didn't tell anybody this, but when I went to the bathroom, I was just walking in the halls, and I was like, I know now that I'm dead set on doing this in college. I want to do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah, and it's a very lucid atmosphere up there and a very immersive experience that is state. And I've been privileged to be there a couple times. I got to work with a person that's now at UNL. That's a broadcaster over at UNL. He's a freshman there. And looking back, it's taught me a lot about what a professional broadcast can and should look like, and what constitutes as a quote unquote. There's a lot of people have a lot of different points of view about what constitutes a quote unquote good broadcast. There's different ways to do everything. There's always more than one way to skin the cat. And it's about finding what works for you, and it's figuring out what works for you, what doesn't work for you, what you're comfortable with, and where your strengths lie. That it's important to develop early on as a broadcaster, as you had to do this year. And it's important to realize this. What would you say is your biggest strength that you've had to develop this year? Or maybe it was a weakness and you developed it and it turned into a strength. What do you got?
Well, I already know my strength. I got elite ball knowledge. Don't ask Timmy. And I think a weakness is just being not confident or kind of scared on the mic. Then now I'm just say what I want, except keep it appropriate and not get banned before my career starts.
Yeah, that would be important. Yes, and it's about developing yourself and taking time to learn the craft. And we definitely both took a lot of time to learn the craft. I know I counted it out because of my NHS service hours. I put in 114 hours probably not on the mic. Probably around 70-ish hours on the mic, and another 30, 40 hours of setting up, of prepping notes, of getting player pronunciations, of doing all the things that can be prepared. My biggest thing, my tip would be prepared, just like that Disney song. Be prepared. Always be prepared. If you, as long as you walk in prepared and you know what you're doing, you can ad-lib pretty much anything. Because if you lose your way and you're just struggling with something to say, just look at your notes because you're prepared. That's my biggest thing, is if I'm ever underprepared and I have to go into a game cold, that'd be like just going into a basketball game without stretching. You can't do it. And I think that's one of the things you need to work on, is being more prepared and taking notes, which I think you should do. I think it would help a lot of people, a lot of broadcasters, because a lot of people,
that's what you're there for.
Not just you, but a lot of people in a lot of professions, I think, don't want to put in the necessary work to get out of what. In all professions, not just broadcasting, in everything.
In college, I'm going to call up Kolby Tighe to do my scripts for every assignment.
And if you'll pay me.
Mr. Parson, you heard that. Kolby's offering to help me cheat.
I'm offering to help a fellow broadcaster out is what I'm doing. But yeah, it's important to be prepared, and it's important to just log hours on the mic. That's my second biggest tip. Just talk. Just get on the mic. Just talk about anything. Figure out where your strengths lie and figure out what you're comfortable doing, and then the rest will come. The rest, the experience, the hours, the expertise, the knowledge, it will all fall into place if you just get experience and just go do stuff. I think that's going to wrap us up. Caden, any final words?
No.
All right. Well, thank you so much for watching this, Mr. Parson. This was episode 2 of the Broadcast Podcast. We'll see you back here for episode 3 very shortly, where we will cover some more broadcasting topics and get word from hopefully one more broadcaster, maybe myself. Stay tuned. See ya.